confidence in the law only to the extent that they can understand it and feel that it is a rule relatively permanent, which will not be continually changed. So first of all...
Can you say IRS?
Well, I thought of
Everybody's
the most...
afraid of it.
They don't understand
Nobody
it.
could understand
And we
it.
don't know that it won't change tomorrow.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so the people don't have confidence in the IRS. None at all.
No fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
No confidence.
Right. Well, and it's going that way. And I mean, the thing that came immediately to mind when it says people will have confidence in law only to the extent they can understand it. Obamacare.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just say to the extent they can understand it. It says it will be of little avail to the people that the laws are made by men of their own choice if the laws be so voluminous that they cannot read it, or so incoherent that they cannot be understood.
You have to pass it to understand it, Deanna.
How many people do you know who have even read one law? How many people do you know who have even read one law? That has been made. I mean, every session we have of the state legislature, they make public all the laws, all the bills that are in front of the legislature. How many people do you know who've even read one of them?
And how many people would even want to try if it's not understandable? Like, I think people would be intimidated by...
I just assumed
click on the
that
link
they were
and
legally,
read it,
yeah.
and then it's going to be, I mean, I assume, I don't always know.
Here's my other question. How many members of Congress read the entire Obamacare law that they passed?
They couldn't have, because it changed right before they passed it.
And that makes me think, isn't it interesting?
Some of
Then
them paid
these-
several aides to read parts of it so that in their office collectively they had read it all.
I'm sorry.
That these principles in here are like one sentence so easy to understand. Like, I read the sentence, I may not understand everything that it means, but I can understand what he's saying when he says, men are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. I don't know what all of those are, but I understand that sentence, you know? Mm-hmm. And yet, we make things so complicated, mm-hmm. and then the people lose their power to...
So do you see what's happening here? We're losing confidence in the law. When you lose confidence in the law, then the leaders who rise up, they're, and I think Obama completely fits this, their aim is for you to have confidence in them.
Yes.
If you have lost your confidence in the law, then you go to confidence in people, and that is when they can start ruling by their whim, because your allegiance is to them and no longer to the law. And I feel like this is what is happening in our country. I think this is why...
And it's obvious that his confidence is not in the law. He just goes, oh, well, we'll just do it a different way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's complete disrespect for the law.
Well, this makes me think of executive orders, which are not legal, like, at all.
And he's doing them.
And those seem like, okay, I mean, I don't know all the details of them, but it seems like those are the easier to understand. Okay, this is now the rule, and it's this executive order, that's all it is. Where the law is now the hard to understand big part, and he can just say, well, now you'll remember Obama because I just said this, and this was my order, and it became, like, everything's getting named after him. It's just Obama. I really like your point that the confidence is going to him.
And I think that's...
And you know, going back to our standard that we compare it to in Jacob 4, it talks about the Jews wanted something they couldn't understand. That's interesting. They wanted something they couldn't understand. And it's also, the phrase in the Book of Mormon is looking beyond the mark.
Yeah.
You know, I find it very interesting though. In the last 2 weeks, I've been listening when I get in the car to little snippets of what's going on, and of course, lots of the radio talk people try to get the members of the House of Representatives and Senate on their shows, and I have heard a couple of the ones who are marked as conservatives and who are well respected as conservatives say, we have this bill, it is 1 page. They're making it very obvious that they want to reduce, that they want to be transparent, that they want to make it easy to understand. And they are not a majority, but they are still there and they do understand that principle. Yeah, and they, and that is their goal, because it was interesting to me that they took the time to say that. This bill is 1.5 pages, and here's what it does. Do you know what I mean? And it makes you want to go and read it. Mm-hmm. It's 1.5 pages, awesome. It's going to do that, fabulous, you know. And there is confidence in just knowing that it's short. Yeah. There's no way
that there's all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. You can't hide things in a page.
Yeah. So from where we are then, you're starting to go to how do we get out of it? That would be the question is, okay, if this is where we are, if we are veering so quickly toward the whims, being ruled by the whims of men, even under our constitutional government, you know, how do we pull back on that? How do we get out of it?
Well, I don't know. My first thought is we don't have constitutional government. It's not anywhere close. But that's the only way. I mean, what remnants are left, hopefully we can use to the lack of confidence I have is that any law passed will ever be followed or paid attention to.
And that's the thing.
Because they just passed. I mean, it hasn't been that long where they passed a law that said, okay, we're going to be transparent. Everything has to be debated and left for 72 hours before we vote on it. Never happens.
Yeah. And and
they just drive right over the top of anything that is dedicated to turning us in the right direction.
Well, and if there is an injustice and a law is broken, who knows what the decision in court is going to be? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I feel that way. I feel like they just drag it on and on for 6 or 8 years, and who knows what the answer is going to be.
Because nobody's paying attention by the time they
Not necessarily a just one, you know?
And then it's the whim of the judges. So we have the whim of the executive, and we have the whim of the
judges.
The Justice Department, and we have the whim of the legislature. And then all their whims are just fighting.
All their whims are different.
But we're not doing the constitutional balances. We're just having the whims fight. How's that good?
Can I throw in something there about the judges?
Yeah, please.
Help me with his name. That's the attorney in Rosecrest, Younger family.
Johnston,
yeah, Aaron Johnston commented that he went through BYU Law School, graduated with his law degree, passed the bar, and never in one of his classes, even his constitutional law class, was he ever asked to read the Constitution or study it. Not once. They studied case law.
Constitutional law, he didn't have to read the Constitution.
They studied the case law of the Supreme Court and their opinions on the Constitution and the precedents set by those cases.
Like you said, precedents.
But they never talked about the actual Constitution. They never were required to read or study it.
Because it's not about the Constitution anymore, it's about precedent. Yeah, that's true. Case law. How scary is that? Yeah. That's why we're so far from where we need to be. Because they don't understand what inalienable rights are.
It's like cutting a pattern and then cutting your next pattern off the cut and then the next one off the cut.
I like that analogy.
You get to
whims.
Yeah. You're playing the telephone game.
You get to a collar instead of a shirt, right?
Yeah.
After you've done it from the cut so many times.
So can I say something?
Wow.
I think the partial answer to this question of how can we get back to where we want to be is we need to know the principles very, very well. And we need to have the discovery of the principles, which we're trying to do right now in our classes.
Mm-hmm.
And also what Bonnie brought up before with that other principle, we need to bring this principle right back to our homes. Like,
Yeah, I like this.
are we governing
Right.
our homes by God's law or by the whims of the mother or
The
the
father.
father? Are we
Sometimes one, sometimes the other.
bring this principle back right into our homes, or are we
Sometimes
just
third
governing
way.
by our own whims?
Thank you for bringing that up, because when she asked that question, I thought, ooh, I want to ask that same question. In fact, I was evaluating myself and how I'm doing in my home. Am I governing by my whim, or do we have set very laws that our children understand and they know are not going to change? Because it really does give you a sense of freedom to know what's expected and what the consequences are going to be if you don't obey.
I think we could probably, even more than we could benefit from talking about what's broken in our nation, which I think we can benefit from. If we talked about any of these principles and asked that question every time, maybe even
Yes.
added that at the bottom of
Yes.
Audrey's 3 questions.
Yes.
Well, how can we return that to this nation? Then we ask ourselves, how can we live this principle better in our own homes?
Which we've been taught that the family is the building block of society, and so if we do this in our homes, it will naturally happen in society.
It is the true unit of society.